Welcome to the Hump Day Hangout podcast by Semantic Mastery, where we answer your local SEO questions every week at 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm Adam Moody, and my partner at Semantic Mastery, Bradley Benner, will be sharing his decades of expertise based on not only helping others, but running his own agencies and businesses in the space. If you'd like to join us live on YouTube each week, just go to www.semanticmastery.com/HDHO at 4 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. If you'd like to ask a question ahead of time, go to the same link, www.semanticmastery.com/HDHO at any time and submit it there. Don't forget, you can get the Semantic Mastery Local SEO Toolkit for free at the same URL. Okay, let's get going with this episode. If you're looking for Hump Day Hangouts episode 559, you are in the right place. That's what this is, and we are going to get into answering your local SEO questions here in a minute after we say hello to everybody, and we got a couple of quick, good announcements. And today is the 13th of August, 2025. While Bradley takes care of some of the tech stuff in the background, me and Chris are going to say hello, or I'm going to ask Chris to say hello, and he's probably going to say hello. So Chris, go for it. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Pretty excited today. Hit a couple PRs today in the gym. Even I had like only 6 hours of sleep. So
You hit a couple of press releases in the gym?
exactly, man. Personal
Welcome to the
record.
Gun
No, I
Show
understand.
with Chris.
I
Yeah.
understand.
No, that's awesome, man.
You're talking to an SEO crowd. So PRs to an SEO crowd means something different
Yeah,
than
man.
to those that work out.
Bradley, any PRs for you today?
I happen to publish a couple of PRs today. Does that matter?
Yeah. Yeah, man. PR is a PR. Yeah.
That's right. So, no, things are good, man. I've been on calls all goddamn day. I'm about tired of it. I'm looking forward to this being the last call of the day. So, I'm a bit hoarse actually, just from being on Zoom meetings all damn day. But no, things are good, man. We're rocking and rolling, making progress with our AI development for the syndication kind of agents that we're developing, and made some more progress. Was chatting with the dev team this morning about it, and they've now got both types of content source triggers integrated into the content generation agent, which is right now we have a blog RSS feed and a podcast RSS feed that will both use as kind of the source pieces of content, that then it creates a bunch of supporting content from that source content. And then the next again, where we got one more agent to develop, which is the distribution agent, which will then publish those newly generated pieces of content on various external blogs. And so we're real close. We're I'd say 2 to 3 weeks likely away from having kind of our initial prototype. Looking forward to that, because I think that's going to be a kind of a bit of a, for lack of a better term, a game changer for how we're doing SEO and how we can optimize for language models. And it also becomes an automated link building, method, if you think
Yeah.
about it, because you publish content and from one source, and then it just creates a whole bunch of different pieces of content and publishes them out across a bunch of different places, all with links pointing back to the original source. So it goes back to what our Syndication Academy training was originally, but with a lot more advancements now because of AI. And I think it's going to really make things a lot easier for us to get results for our local clients, and actually reduce costs. I really do think that's going to happen. Won't know for sure, but that's my assumption. So I'll be sharing more about that as it comes online. So
Nice. Well, I wanted to say, in the line of press releases, we've sent out a couple of emails this week with usual good info in them, but also a little bit of a snippet in there about semantic SEO and done for you services. We have included the Google Doc that Bradley has shared, I believe, before on Hump Day Hangouts. If not, I can pop the link in. But Bradley, do you mind just kind of going over this real quick, just high level for people who may have missed it the last couple of weeks?
yeah, so you're talking about for white label services.
Yep. And I'm going to pull
Um,
up the link and share the Google Doc. We had a ton
yeah,
of people clicking through in the email today, but I know some people don't always check out the emails.
yeah. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to open that up myself. I'll pull it up real quick. All right, I'm gonna grab the screen just for a minute. We'll pop back off in a minute as well. This is the excuse me, white label fulfillment services that we provide under Semantic SEO, which is our kind of more full service agency. Remember, I have Semantic Links, which is a link building agency. white label link building agency, but this is Semantic SEO, which is more full service. When I say more full service, it's not fully full service because we don't do the on-page optimization changes. We don't execute on-page optimization changes for the self-hosted site. We won't do that unless we build the site, but we will manage the Google Business Profile, make on-page changes for that, link building, content marketing, citations, branded assets, all the types of things that we do to help clients get results, and we will provide consulting services when needed for the main website, the self-hosted site, that then the agency or the webmaster team responsible for managing the website can then execute those changes. But we'll do everything else. And there's reasons why, guys, we don't want access to other people's websites because there's so many different website platforms and different page builders now and WordPress and all this stuff. There's no way for any of us to be proficient across all of those different, platforms, etc., page builders, all of that. Number two, as a white label provider, we are like a third party. Like, in other words, we don't have any direct association with the client. We are providing fulfillment services for the agency. The agency has direct communication or associations with the client. Therefore, guess who gets blamed in a white label service situation when something bad happens to the website? It's the white label provider that gets blamed because obviously, it's easy to point fingers at the white label provider when they have access to the website and everything else. And so because of that, we don't want access to any of that shit. It opens up liability and it causes problems, etc. So I just want to be clear about that. When I say it's a more full service agency, it's because we'll provide everything, including consultation services for the on-page optimization of the self-hosted site, but we won't actually execute those changes. But we'll do everything else, including Google Business Profile optimization, publishing posts, GB posts, citations, asset building, link building, content marketing, all of the other things that can be done, we'll do that. We just won't touch the website. That's clear. So we got a number of services here. We have some one-off services like GB profile optimization. It's a one-off service that actually came down in price recently by $50. Brand Builder. This is a one-off service that if anybody purchased the local ops SEO system that we promoted a couple of weeks ago, which could drop that link again to Adam. That is Brand Builder is one of two initial services that I apply to all local campaigns. We determine through the competitive link analysis report or a full SEO audit, which is always the first step. Before I ever do any work on any client project, we either require a competitive link analysis report or a full SEO audit. And so depending on whether it's a new company or a under-established company, meaning they don't have a well-established online presence yet, then we'll just go directly into competitive link analysis. Or excuse me, if we'll go right into Brand Builder. If they are a well-established company that already has a decent presence, then we'll go into in order to save some of the client's money for other, services that we can apply or reallocate to other services. Branded assets bundle is about roughly half the cost, a little bit more, but roughly half the cost of a Brand Builder. So just pointing that out because, again, in the local ops SEO system that we pitched a couple of weeks ago, it has a very specific sequence of services that we apply to every campaign and the timeline that we apply them. And so the Brand Builder is one of them. The other one is branded assets. It just depends on the kind of strength of the campaign at the time that we start our services. Okay. But this is a great service, guys. This is one of the ways that you can very quickly build branded location authority. And again, I recommend you sell that for $9.99. Subscription services. These are the kind of fully managed SEO campaigns for Google Business Profiles, which includes, again, consulting for the main website. But we have our fulfillment costs, which includes each one of these subscription levels includes the corresponding semantic links package. So that would be the monthly links building services that provided its semantic links. So the low to medium competition GBP SEO plan has the low to medium competition link building plan from semantic links. The medium or high competition, plan has the high competition plan from semantic links. So that it's the same type of links that we apply to all levels, subscription levels. It's just the quantity or volume of links that increases with the higher subscription plans. Okay. You can also see the difference in the amount of content that we published, etc. So all of this is, again, so that you guys, again, we highly recommend, what I recommend is that anybody that's struggling to generate more revenue in your agency is to stop focusing on fulfillment and focus on marketing and sales, identifying a particular industry, learning what kind of it converts in that particular industry. What are their problems? How can you provide solutions or develop solutions to help them solve their specific problems in that industry? And then you go out and pitch, pitch, pitch. Find white label providers that can fulfill for you so that you can really refine your marketing and sales process, your offers, etc. And then once you have stabilized your income and you generate enough, positive cash flow to support your operations, your overhead, and your personal income needs, right? Once you've developed all of that, you've secured all of that, then if you want to bring fulfillment back in-house, that's when you should do it. But the problem that I have seen, and I've experienced this in my own, career, is that we oftentimes focus too much on the fulfillment and execution and not the revenue generating side of things, right? Of course, we have to deliver for our clients, or we wouldn't have clients, we wouldn't be in business for long. So that's why I'm saying, instead of always kind of going through the process of, peaks and valleys where you do a little bit of prospecting, you land a couple of clients, and then you stop generating new leads for your agency so that you can fulfill, you're always on a treadmill where it's always like taking, two steps forward and one step back. You make very, very incremental gains that way, if any at all. Whereas if you focus in on finding an industry, developing solutions for that industry, and finding fulfillment partners to be able to fulfill what you're selling, then you can really build your revenue up into a much, get your revenue, your cash flow needs met first. Then you can worry about the complexity of it, which, by the way, you will increase your profit margins if you bring the fulfillment services in-house, but you also increase your complexity, right? The management requirements, stress levels also go up. All of that stuff increases as well. So there's a trade-off, and it's up to you to determine whether or not that trade-off is worth it or not. Most people that I talk to are agency owners. They want ultimately to fulfill in-house, but I always suggest and propose that if you were to be able to build an agency on where that you're using third-party fulfillment providers to fulfill your services, why would you want, if you're able to build a profitable agency where you're using third-party fulfillment providers, why would you want the added complexity of then bringing all that stuff in-house? You certainly can. A lot of people will, but it's not necessary if you have decent third-party providers. So that's what this is for, guys. There's some recommended retail pricing on here as well. It's available. We are looking to start scaling up our client base within this white label service. So that's why we're promoting this on the start of these Hump Day Hangouts for the next several weeks, is we're trying to get some more users in there as we expand our team, train more personnel, develop more automations, etc. How was that?
That was outstanding. Thank you, Bradley.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, I think we got everything out we need to. I've got the links up on the page for anyone who's interested, both in the Done For You services as well as Local Mastery, our weekly newsletter with 5 to 7 quick hits, along with action items for each really condensed, really actionable email, as well as a link to the mastermind if you're ready to take up either your freelancing or ideally your local SEO agency the next level, be around others doing the same thing, then come check out the mastermind.
That's it. Okay, are we getting into questions now?
Let's do it.
All right. We got a handful, but not a whole lot, but enough to fill up some time. And I see David Morgan. What's up, buddy? It's good to see you again, David. When you're not here, man, it's known. So when you come back, you definitely participate, and that's always encouraged, and I appreciate that. So thank you. All right, guys, I'm gonna grab the screen again, and we're gonna get into questions. If I can figure out how to work Zoom. All right, here we go. Alex is up first. This is Alex, one of our newer members in the mastermind, who's been asking a ton of questions, and he's very active, and that's awesome, man. I really appreciate that. Alex is a hustler. He's a mover and a shaker, as they say. So very cool. Hey, Bradley, I noticed that on your TreeCare HQ site, the city name slug redirects back to the home page. Is that the recommended setting for the directory site, since the directory doesn't create actual city page when importing the prospecting list? I saw in your April 24th mastermind webinar that you mentioned that the link equity gets diluted when you drill deep into directories. That's true. It does. And that's true of any business, or excuse me, any website. the more like layers or levels in the URL structure, the the deeper that you go in those levels within the URL structure, the less internal link equity those pages or posts receive. So being closer to the root is going to receive more internal link equity, and that's just the nature. It's been that way as far as I know, since really taxonomies and et cetera, since websites have been around. Um, so yeah, I don't like to go super deep into the URL structure anyway. I didn't actually know that it did that. It's likely either a setting from one of my plugins, either my SEO Press Pro plugin that has a redirect module built into it, or I also use SEO or excuse me 301 whatever. It's a separate plugin that I use specific. It's a paid pro plugin, whatever, that I purchase that does redirect stuff. And I that's on the although I bought that plugin, and now that I use SEO Press and it has a redirects module, SEO Press Pro as a redirects module, that it's really an unnecessary plugin, the other one that I have for redirects specifically. But that may be just a function of one of those two plugins. I don't remember ever specifically setting that up. So I think that's probably just you know, again, just something that is occurring because of one of the redirect plugins or settings that I have on the site. I don't remember specifically setting that up though. But does it create like a city name page? Not uh, the company slash city name. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Because usually it's going to be the city name before the company name in the URL structure. So my guess is it's not actually a page that is generated by WP GeoDirectory. So therefore, it may just automatically redirect back to the home page. I'd have to see an actual URL for me to determine that. So if I'm not answering the question, properly with enough detail, in today's setting, certainly you have the mastermind, Alex, so you can post in there and we can get into that. Tomorrow's a mastermind webinar, so I can get into that more deeper, or on the Build with Bradley meetings, or you could just post in the group and we can converse about it a little bit more in the group, if that makes sense. Okay. So adding the state slug wouldn't add any value to the site. So if you're talking about just how you set that up, well, you could add the state to that if you wanted. I don't really see the need for it. That's why I omitted that, because again, it does affect, the depth of the URL. And so I just don't think it's necessary to have the state in there. So I just put the city, and the city just creates kind of, because remember, they're like in the tree service industry, there's a lot of tree companies out there that have the exact same name. They're in different states, so they were able to register that name within their state, but it's a name that's used by other companies in other states. And so I just use the city modifier in the URL structure in order to kind of delineate which company that is, right? Because it's going to be very rare that you're going to have the same company name in the same city but two different states. You see, because sometimes like Springfield, right? Springfield is a city name that's common across. There's many Springfields across the United States, and so potentially that could happen, but it would be very rare where you would see the same company slug or name, excuse me, with the same city name but different states. And so for the most part, I just omit the state because it makes the URL structure a little bit shorter. The company or agency or uh, practice or whatever it is that you label that slug as, which is the custom post type for companies or whatever in the GeoDirectory site, that's always going to be included in the individual directory listing URL. You can't get rid of that as far as I know. But as far as everything beyond the company folder or section in the URL, that you can modify based upon your URL settings, your permalink settings in the GeoDirectory settings. And I always just stick with, again, city, company name. Okay. All right, moving on. I can't believe we have a lot of the same SOP here, Bradley. Yeah, I'm sure, man. Great minds think alike, right? Right, David? Alex says, "Hey, Bradley, how many business listings do you recommend you have on the directory site active at one time? Is there a point where having too many would slow down the performance of the WordPress site?" I don't know. Yes, I'm sure there is. And it also depends on the host, right? You got better hosting you shouldn't have problems with that. You may have, eventually, if you get your directory site with enough listings that it isn't running or performing very, properly, it's running slowly, it's loading slowly, etc., then that a lot of the time can be resolved by upgrading host. So that's a host function. It's not really a function of SEO, in my opinion. As far as how many directory listings, can you have as many as you want? What I recommend, though, is that you only add listings to the site that are thoroughly optimized, because recently, in one of the more recent updates, the indexing rate tanked, like from the TreeCare HQ directory, and it's all the listings that were the really basic listings that were generated upon import, right? Remember, I don't do that and anymore, and I haven't for a long time. In the DHA coaching program, I tell people, just populate your site, your directory site, with like the companies that you scrape from one state, and that's it. I originally, a year and a half ago, I was saying do it for 3 states, but more recently, in one of the more recent algorithm updates, my indexing rate just tanked with TreeCare HQ, and it's the pages or posts, the company listings that aren't optimized. They're just basic imported listings that aren't indexed. And so, in the SOPs, I show in the I think it's, let me just find it real quick, and I'll demonstrate where it is for you, Alex, and then this also gives me an opportunity to display or showcase some of our SOPs. So there's a dual purpose for sharing this right now. But we're going to look at the directory agency SOPs. We're going to look at contact lists right here. So this is what I was talking about. Importing and exporting listing data into GeoDirectory. And if you take a look at this, you'll see there's a module in the SOP here for optimized directory descriptions using GPT for Sheets. And so what I recommend is, if you are going to be importing listings, instead of like what we do at TreeCare HQ now, is we only add a listing to the directory when a company has, or somebody has responded positively to our cold outreach emails, right? So our cold emails that are saying, hey, we're trying to confirm the company information for your listing on the treecarehq.com directory site. This is what we have: name, address, phone number, website, service area. And we omit some of that data intentionally, from the emails. Like, we leave the website field blank always. We might have the website URL, but we always send them the email saying, this is what we have, and the website field is always blank. And it's intentional. We want them to reply and say, oh, yes, all that information is correct, except you're missing my website. Here it is. Or the phone number needs updated and my website is missing. Here, and they send us the website. You see what I'm saying? We do that intentionally. But so we only add listings to the directory for those positive replies that we have received from our cold email. So because then the directory listing is only being created by my team member who is responsible for optimizing the listing, right? So when it is published, it's already optimized. Instead of, originally, I was just importing the contact lists into GeoDirectory, and then I would export them from GeoDirectory in a CSV file that then would be uploaded into High Level, so that then when I was doing my messaging sequence, which at the time was done via High Level, the cold email was, instead of via Instantly, then I would have the URL to the listing in the contact records, right, the custom field, so that, if needed, we could send them directly to their listing. We could send the listing URL directly to them via email, SMS, whatever, because it was part of their contact record in High Level, right? However, like I said, recently, because Google doesn't want to index pages that are not adding value, basic unoptimized listings won't index, or very unlikely to index. And so what I'm recommending is, if you're going to be importing listings, which initially, when you first launch the directory, you should have some seed listings on the site in order to kind of help Google to understand what the site is about, right? But this right here, the GPT for Sheets, is training specifically for how to use the GPT for Sheets plugin or extension, whatever you call it, to very quickly create optimized business directory listings using ChatGPT. And it's like it's incredibly inexpensive. I mean, I've done thousands of listings and I've spent like $6. I'm not kidding. I loaded my account with like $25 originally, and I think I still have like $18 on my account. And I've done thousands of these. Okay. And here's the prompt for that. But and this shows, again, this is all in the SOP. But that's what I would recommend is if you're going to be importing listings, that you do it in a way that, this will create 2 paragraphs that have actually where ChatGPT actually goes and looks at each website each contact is going to be a separate row in the sheet, and it goes and it looks at each one of the websites and it pulls and it references the services and the service locations that are mentioned on their site, and it creates 2 paragraphs about the company, the products that they or services that they provide, and the locations in which they provide them. And so it becomes a much more thoroughly optimized description and therefore much more likely to index. Hopefully that's clear. As far as the number of listings, there is no limit. The limit is going to be by your host and your market, the total addressable market. That's about it. Okay. All right, moving on. Huzzy says, if we order a comp analysis, can you recommend one-off services that you think would benefit the campaign the most, or do we need to request a video add-on for those recommendations? Yes, that's video add-on. The competition analysis reports, you're paying for the written reports. That's assuming you understand how to interpret the data on your own. If you want me to then analyze the data and kind of review it in a video recording, and then provide specific recommendations about which of our services I think should be applied to that campaign, that's what the video add-on recommendation is for. Okay. You're buying my time to then review the report data and provide you with a specific recommendation. And you're not just buying my time, I also record the video where I'm showing you what I'm analyzing and my process for analyzing it, and then explaining what I am recommending from our services that I would apply to that campaign. And then I also say why. There's a reason why I do that with my video reviews of the competitive link analysis reports, because I don't want to have to do those for every time you want to order links, Huzzy, or anybody else, to be clear. I do the video review and recommendation, and it costs $20 because you're buying my time, but I'm very thorough in my explanations because I want you to understand how to read those reports on your own, because I don't want to have to do that for you every time you need to order links. And I'm not just pointing at you, Huzzy, I'm saying about anybody. My goal is not to be sitting in front of a computer analyzing your clients' campaigns all the time and recording videos where I'm always analyzing other people's campaigns. That's not something that I particularly want to do, but I do it because it's valuable for you guys, the clients, and for getting better results for your clients. So the goal is for me, what my intention with those video review add-on is for you to buy a couple of them, and then you will have learned through those videos that I send how to interpret the data and then make your own decisions based upon those competitive link analysis reports, so that all you should need going forward is the written report, which again, I provide the training for how to do that free of charge in the Semantic Mastery channel, so that you can do competitive link analysis in-house if you want. You can always use our services. I'm happy to, my team will generate the written report for $19. You're going to spend another $20 if you want me to review the data. But the goal of the video review is for you to learn, after a handful of those, how to interpret the competitive analysis reports on your own. Hopefully that's clear. But if anybody ever asks me for a recommendation, we just had another 2 competitive link analysis order reports delivered that were the written reports only, purchased by the purchaser. And then in both cases, it's the same buyer. In both cases, replied back after the report was delivered, because all they ordered was the written report. So my team generates the report and then we deliver it. And then, hey, can you provide some recommendations? Can you ask Bradley? Because my project manager, Samantha, delivers the reports. And so Samantha delivers the written reports. When there's a video review add-on, I deliver the report, because we don't deliver the report until I review it. So Samantha delivered both of these reports. And then there was a follow-up comment from the purchaser. Can you ask Bradley what he would recommend? I don't know how to be any clearer about, that is precisely what the video add-on is for, when it's specifically, like it's right here on the checkout page, right? Video review and recommendation. If somebody wants a video review and recommendation, that's what it's for. Don't think that you're going to, and I'm not saying this to you, Alex or Huzzy or anybody else, don't think that you're going to backdoor me by ordering a competitive analysis report without the video review and then just asking for me to provide a video review or a recommendation. I'm not going to do it. If you want me to review the data and provide you with a recommendation, that's what the add-on is for. Okay. So to answer your question, Huzzy, if you want me to review the data, yep, you're going to need the add-on. I will not recommend any link building services without looking at the competitive analysis data first, because otherwise I'm just taking wild ass guesses, and that's not how I operate. Okay. And I'm not going to take guesses. And if I'm going to make a suggestion, I want to look at the data first, and that's what that is for. So just to be clear, guys, if you want, and again, the point is not to force you guys to, I don't want to have to be reviewing these campaigns all the time, guys. Do you think that is something that that is not a scalable service, right? It's literally trading hours for dollars, and it's me doing it. I would rather focus on higher level, higher earning tasks. But I do that because I understand that my clients, being you guys, the SEOs, are looking for suggestions and recommendations so that you can get better results for your clients. I understand that, and that's why I make that available to you. But my goal is not to continue doing those indefinitely. It's so that you can learn how to interpret them on your own. That's what that is for. Okay. Let me see. David's got a comment over here. He says, pro tip for the city question. The guy could include a link to Wikipedia in his schema so Google can make the proper connection, because Cleveland, Tennessee and Cleveland, Ohio are two different cities. Yeah. And I mean, that's, by the way, just to be clear, David, on GeoDirectory, even if in the slug it just has the city name, which could be common to multiple states, the actual listing itself has the full address or the city state zip. If the client, if the contractor, the client, the company being listed on the directory doesn't want their address displayed, they can request to have their street address hidden, but it's still going to reference city state zip or city state postal code, depending on where you are. And so in that case, it doesn't matter that the URL has the state in it, because the distinguishing, factor or identifier, modifier, the state itself, is listed on the directory page. That's clear. So the URL slug could be, doesn't need to have the state when it's noted elsewhere on the page, is what I'm saying. But yes, you could also do it in schema. But we don't add schema to the directory listings unless it's a paid listing. And I don't mean a paid directory listing because I don't sell paid directory listings. All my directory listings are free. I'm saying if the client is a paying client because they're using some of our services, then I will add schema to the directory list. Okay. All right, moving on. James says, are citations, press releases, GStacks, cloud pages, and other foundation links supposed to be linking to the location landing page? They can. They don't have to, though. They can, but they don't have to. Typically, if you submit NAPW with the website linking direct with the website as the location landing page URL, then we're going to build the branded assets that way and link to them that way. But you have to understand that the location, unless it's a multi-location business, if it's a multi-location business, then yes, you always want to link to the appropriate location page. But if it's a single location business, but it's a service area business, so the GBP is actually linking to a dedicated location landing page instead of the home page, it's still fine to create citations, even Web 2 assets, branded assets, or any sort of branded asset linking directly back to the homepage, because the homepage is the brand page. Do you understand? That's what the homepage should be. The homepage should be first and foremost about the brand. It should be a brand focused page, period. And so if you are optimized, if it's a single location business, even if it's a service area business that has a dedicated location landing page where the homepage is not linked to from the GBP, if you're going to reference that name, address, phone number, and website, and you're linking to the homepage instead of the location landing page, it's not going to hurt anything. Okay. If it's a multi-location business, it can cause problems. But if it's a single location business, it really doesn't matter. If you submit them with the location landing page URL already established, we will build them that way for you. If it's the homepage, because the location landing page hasn't been published yet, it won't hurt anything as long as it's a single location business. But if the business wants to expand at a later time and then add other locations, right, then those could potentially be a problem unless they're revised. And that then in itself creates a challenge. Revising assets that, especially if you haven't logged into them in a long time, sometimes you can't. And then it becomes a bitch, because now you've got inaccurate data out there, NAP discrepancies, etc. Right? So I always recommend that you just link directly to the location landing page when possible. But to answer your question, is it going to hurt anything? It's not. It's not going to hurt anything if it's a single location business, because remember, it's still associating that location with the brand, and the homepage is the brand page. It should be anyway. Okay. That's a good question, though. Tim says, do you still use Schema Writer AI for your schema? Yeah, I do. I still do. But I only use it for organization schema and for local business schema. And I've talked about that many, many times on Hump Day Hangouts. For everything else, I use inlinks, because it's easier. It's much easier to scale. So inlinks will create FAQ page schema or web page schema for all other pages with just a simple code, piece of JavaScript code that you insert in the HTML header of the site. And then inside inlinks, you then add the website. Well, you add the website first. It gives you the JavaScript code. You add that to the site. You validate that the code is present. And then you go select which pages, or you can manually add them, whatever. You can select which pages you want to then manage schema from within inlinks. And so you can, what I do is in Schema Writer AI, I do organization schema for the homepage, local business schema for the location landing page, and then all other pages, top level pages, are going to be web page or FAQ page schema that is inserted and managed through the inlinks portal, if that's clear. That way and by the way, because I'm in a single industry, I have basically templates, CSV import templates that I use in Schema Writer AI for all my knows about entities, my keywords. The only thing that I have to do for each new company is the area served attributes, right? Which is postal codes and things like that. I have to extract that and format a CSV import file for each new location. But for area served and keywords and everything else, I basically have templates. So I just duplicate templates. And then the only thing we do is the location optimization for that specific business. That's clear. So it makes it much more efficient. Here's the thing. I like Schema Writer AI because it's thorough, but part of the problem, and I haven't personally been in Schema Writer now for probably at least 2 or 3 months. And my guess is it's probably been updated a couple of times since then, because Jesper does a pretty good job of updating tools regularly. So it's probably better now than it was a few months ago, the last time I did it myself. But where I don't like Schema Writer, and this is not I'm not criticizing or anything else. It pulls in so much that you end up spending a lot of time eliminating non-relevant, items from the schema. And that's what still is tedious about it. Is because it is still broad, and I understand why, right? It's broad where it pulls in more stuff than it really needed to. It gets too broad, in my opinion. And then you have to go through still very granularly and kind of extract or eliminate anything that is not relevant. And so that's why, like I said, I've had a number of white label clients ask me, hey, can you do schema for us? And I tell them no every time. And it's because I've not trained anybody else how to do schema yet. And it would be me doing it. And I'm not going to spend time. I don't want to. It's incredibly tedious to go through all that line by line and within Schema Writer and get rid of all the stuff that it pulls in that's not relevant. And I'd have to do that for every industry, right? And no way I'm doing it. And I haven't trained anybody else how to do that yet. So that's why I don't offer that as a service. For my own business, my own industry, it's not hard because, again, we've created templates, but it took a lot of work to get to that point. So that's why we don't offer it yet. I can't tell you how many. I hate when people ask you repeatedly, do you offer this? Do you offer this? You should just offer it. You know what I mean? Because it's like people are trying to give you money. You don't want to turn it down, but at the same time, I don't have the bandwidth or really the desire to try to train somebody how to do that properly. So that's why it's not something we've offered yet. Okay. Okay, this next one is going to be challenging. I'll just read it, and if I can answer it, great. If not, we'll move on. These are one of the video comments that get posted in here that sometimes there's not enough context in the question to be able to actually answer it. So let's say moving company about creating pages for multiple locations for companies serving San Francisco Bay Area, such as movers in San Francisco, movers in Santa Clara, moving companies in Berlin. See again, I don't even know what the question is. I'd have to go view the videos. So anyway, we're going to move on. John says, what makes you stay in SEO in 20? What makes you stay in SEO is 2025, or it must be in 2025. I fear it is shrinking fast and slowly dying. Well, it is. Well, traditional SEO is. Um, I think it was Jackie Cho, I think that I saw. I might not have been him. I was watching a video on YouTube a few weeks ago, and somebody said SEO is no longer search engine optimization. It should be search everywhere optimization, right? And that made sense to me, like that, because SEO is evolving. It's not dying. It's not shrinking. It's just evolving, right? And the acronym SEO may change. Instead of search engine optimization, search everywhere optimization, or you see, what is it? AIO, AI optimization. You'll see that. LLMO, large language model optimization. There's a number of things so the term, I guess that title is, remember, that's a very broad title, or SEO was very specific originally, but it has morphed into or evolved into this kind of like much broader blanket statement, which is like digital marketing. Right? A lot of times we just associate SEO and digital marketing. But anyway, as far as traditional search engine optimization, yeah, it's kind of dying, right? It's got an expiration date that is approaching much quicker now. Right? And that's fine. It just means we have to evolve. So what? I mean, the shift from, we've had to evolve many times. I've only been doing SEO now for 15 years, and it's evolved a lot. It's changed many, many times over 15 years, but the foundational principles pretty much always remain the same. It's just become more complicated, more complex over the years because more and more factors are included into what gets results. Well, now the whole kind of landscape has shifted considerably and is shifting, right? And so we are definitely seeing more and bigger changes than we ever have, but you just adapt, right? That's it. I mean, you got to in order to stay relevant, you have to adapt, or don't and die. That's what it is. So honestly, I don't want to be in the digital marketing business indefinitely. I've been doing it for 15 years. I still have some life in me. But after 15 years of playing cat and mouse games with Google, I'm fucking tired of it. I'm not gonna joke, I'm not gonna lie about it. And when I say that, I mean like literally playing cat and mouse games with Google. I think some of the stuff that has occurred recently with AI and language models and automation and all that kind of stuff has changed the game, in that it's not nearly, a lot of the stuff that we do is not nearly as spammy as it used to be. And that in and of itself makes this industry, this business, this profession more enjoyable, in my opinion, because I liked the manipulation aspect of SEO, in that, trying to beat the system all the time. That was always fun. But at the same time, some of the tactics that we developed as SEOs to beat the system were so spammy and were not enjoyable that, like, I almost felt guilty doing them. Like I said, almost felt guilty. Let's just be clear. I didn't lose any sleep over it. But like for example, the fact that we used to have to publish the same freaking content 1,000 times on a site with just the location modifiers changed in order to achieve results. That was incredibly spammy and tedious, and I hated it, but I did it because that's how we got results. We don't need to do that anymore. So I think there's a benefit to that. How about just writing content, guys? Think about your developing content 5 years ago and how it is today. And I'm not just talking about the 5 years ago, we had to do it a lot more manually. Now it can be automated. I'm talking about just with the finished product. Read from 5 years ago, what would you have considered a completed and proper SEO optimized article? And now you read an art and what would perform today properly. Two vastly different articles, right? 5 years ago, it would have been hard to read because it would have been keyword stuffed, with keyword density being one of the primary factors that you optimize for, but then also the specific keyword search query in the format in which people searched. So like, for example, tree service Pikeville, right? People don't talk that way, but that's how people would search. And by the way, that's changing. The way that people are searching is changing. But 5 years ago, it was a keyword-based search. And so a consumer would search for tree service Pikeville and they would get the results. The pages that would rank for that, though, would have tree service Pikeville like squeezed and stuffed so many times into the content, and nobody talks that way. So when you're reading it, it doesn't read naturally. Are you looking for tree service Pikeville? No, I'm looking for a tree service in Pikeville. But if you changed it, right, if you optimized with the stop words, it would affect the performance. And so we would optimize the pages and the content to be stuffed with keyword density very high, with the exact keyword search phrases in the way that people search, instead of adding the stop words, which would make it more natural sounding and natural to read, etc. And all of that stuff. And then we would duplicate the same thing over and over and over and over again on the same domain, where we would only change things like the location modifiers. And to me, that was just incredibly spammy, and I hated doing that kind of stuff, but we did it in order to get results. Now we don't have to do any of that stuff anymore. So in some ways, I think the recent changes have made our jobs easier. In other ways, it's become also harder, for sure. But in my own personal capacity, or kind of just to answer the question, I don't want to be doing this forever. I'm open that I don't have to be doing this for any more than possibly another 10 years. That's why I'm building my real estate portfolio, as what I do is kind of my investment strategy and everything else, because eventually, sooner than later, I hope to be able to get out of the marketing industry and just focus on, use my real estate portfolio as my income in my retirement plan. That's basically what I'm doing. But I also had a passion for real estate all this time too. So that kind of explains that. So to finish up John's question, he says, my agency is struggling to deliver the impact that I could in the past, and I'm having doubts of its future. So I'm thinking to pivot. I know there is also AI optimization, but does that really deliver tangible results for the client? What is your take on this? Yes, it right now, the results for the client is going to be very minimal optimizing for AI, but if you start now optimizing for AI chat, AI search, etc., then when the shift occurs, the kind of ultimate shift away from search engines to AI chat, which I don't know if you guys saw, Chris P, my partner, I saw it actually in I don't know if it was an email or news, like a news heading or something, but our partner, Chris P, posted about it later in the day today, about Perplexity making a bid, an offer to purchase Chrome from Google. Google wasn't selling it. Google isn't selling Chrome, so that they weren't accepting bids or anything. Perplexity just made a unsolicited bid to purchase it for, like, I don't know, 34 billion or something like that, something crazy. And there's no, again, we don't know what Google will likely reject it. I'm quite certain of that. But the point is, like, the idea is that like, the language models are now starting, or like Perplexity is at least, looking at integrating, like buying a browser like Chrome, which is the most used browser as far as I know, so that they can integrate AI directly into browsing without needing to go separately to a different AI chat, etc. You see what I'm saying? So they want to incorporate AI directly into the browser instead of, specifically going to a separate chat or site, etc., that type of thing. And so, I think that if you are to start optimizing for AI search and stuff now, that, yeah, it's going to have limited, it's not going to produce results much for the client right now. Depending on if you're talking about for local businesses that serve local markets, it's not going to produce significant, major, life-changing results for the local business to be properly optimized for AI search right now. But it will soon, probably sooner than later. Like, I expect that to occur faster than we expect it to be honest with you, where even Google local search, which has been less affected, I think that still has a shelf life. Things are shifting and changing. And again, these are my assumptions, guys. I have no idea where everything's going to go. I have no idea. I'm guessing just like you guys are. But this just, my experience and my intuition and how I expect it to go, how I assume it's going to go. I could be completely wrong, but I am preparing my agency, my services, to really start now to be optimizing for the demise of search as we know it. And instead, for as we are seeing things trending now towards AI chat, AI search, if that's clear. So I was talking about earlier, like the syndication app that we're building, which will be part of our brand expander course and training. At least I think that's what we're going to do is relaunch, integrate the syndication component back into that. I don't think we'll change the name. We rebranded it from Syndication Academy to Brand Expander a couple of years ago. I don't think we're going to change it back. I think we're going to keep it at Brand Expander, but we're going to add the syndication component back to it with the AI stuff that we're developing now. That's going to overcome a lot of the link building stuff. I'm not saying you still shouldn't also build targeted links. That's most likely going to be needed as well, but probably a lot less of them because the nature of publishing content that then is reformatted and republished in various formats across multiple properties, platforms, etc. It's going to naturally create linking backlinks back to the original source. And so you're going to create this great big network of links, relevant, proper, relevant links that are going to be built automatically by AI when through the content production and distribution process. So I think, again, a lot of this stuff is going to become stuff that we have had to do more manually is going to be taken care of automatically by some of the stuff that we have to do in order to optimize for language models as opposed to search engines. Okay, hopefully that's clear. So I do expect that we're going to, continue to see a decline in search engine market share, total market share, and more of it going towards AI chat. How that ultimately ends up, I don't know, but I expect and today's insights of what Perplexity's kind of bid for Chrome does shed some insight onto what the language models may be considering as their next step, which is to incorporate directly into the browsing experience without having to go to a separate chat or site for it, if that's clear. And so if that's the case, and that is indeed what happens, then we really should be optimizing now, especially before everybody catches on, right? The early adopters always have an advantage. So start now, and you should be able to get results. Okay. Yeah, I agree. David says SEO is far from dying. It's just evolving. That's all. All right. That was a good question, John. Appreciate that. All right, guys. So just one last thing, John. I just want to say, I understand it is, look, all clients, all of my clients are seeing less overall traffic too. There's no question. It's because things are changing so rapidly. So, that's why I think it's important to get listed, published on as many different platforms as possible now, because the options, remember, it was easier I'm not saying our jobs as SEOs were easier when it was only Google, because Google made everything fucking difficult, right? Of course. But it was pretty much where we only had to optimize for one search engine. Think about it. I mean, I don't know. Very few people that I know even spent any time at all trying to optimize for Bing ever, right? You just optimize for Google because it was 80% market share or whatever it was, 85% market, whatever it was. So it was almost pointless to optimize for other search engines. Just optimize for Google. That's where the vast majority of all traffic is going to go. Well, now the options are a lot broader, right? There's a lot more options because a lot more people are using Bing now, number one, but also a lot of people are using other search engines, DuckDuckGo and, various other search engines, as well as now AI chat. So the problem is you have to try to get referenced, published for your clients on all different platforms now, because you don't know which AI models or chats that the consumers are using, which sources they ingest content from and reference content from. In other words, for example, we just did a webinar with Jeremy from Press Advantage, and Jeremy showed multiple examples, which I clearly see in the wild, right, in my day-to-day operations all the time now, that in AI mode in Google or in AI searches, press releases are being referenced when there is a query that is relevant to something that has been referenced in a press release. So, for example, if you're querying a AI chat about a product or service in a particular local market, and there's a company in that local market that has been publishing press releases, that is much more likely that company is going to be returned by the AI chat as one of the providers of those products or services in that that market area, that area, that, geographic area, because press release, at least some of the models that we've been using or the AI chats and stuff are ingesting and using press releases as a authoritative resource. Okay. And so it makes sense for us then to be publishing a lot of content, not just in press releases, but also on other platforms in various media formats, because the language models are looking for text content, audio content, image content, video content, etc. They're looking for anything that they can ingest. And so if we can repurpose one single piece of content into multiple formats and supporting content from an original source, and we can do that all automatically with AI, that's what we're developing now, and then republish, or not republish because it's all new content, but publish across multiple platforms, because we don't know which language models ingest content from which platforms. And so we just need to kind of spray and pray, so to speak, right? Spray out all this content out there in multiple formats across multiple platforms that are always creating associations between the brand and the products and services it provides and the locations in which it provides them. That way we increase the chances, the likelihood of our clients' companies being referenced for any sort of search query posed to the language or search AI chats about products or services that are relevant to that company, the products or services the company provides. So it's important for us, I think, to just really focus in on content marketing more than anything, but not directly from the main website, because as long as Google is still a thing and has a large market share, we don't want to cannibalize or create competing pages on the main website. That's why I talk about publishing all this branded and supporting content externally on external branded blogs, Blogger, Tumblr, Weebly, WordPress, Google Sites, etc., Medium, all of those. Okay. So just shift, you'll be fine. All right, we're going to look at comments and we're going to wrap it up for the day. We're right on time today too. Costco says, you don't enjoy contributing to the dead internet theory? No, and I never have, Costco. Good question. That's funny, by the way, because, I even still have, like, I had a tree service client contact me last week, sent me an email, and he said, I've had multiple calls from, Google reps, and it's not Google reps, it's, they're solicitors, stating that, my digital presence isn't as strong as it should be, and blah, blah, blah. And I've got some questions I want to ask you, and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, when can we schedule a meeting so I can ask you about these things? And I replied back very bluntly. I said, I don't take calls to reply. I don't schedule appointments to respond to claims made by solicitors. You're either happy with my service or you're not. If you're not, you're free to go schedule appointments with any of those solicitors that contacted you. And I was very blunt about it, because I just over the years, to get back to the question or Costco's comment, that's the whole, it's almost the same as I've been approached by, members of our audience or community, whatever, about like, hey, I read on some SEO blog, or how many, those of you that have been doing SEO for a long minute, like for any more than a minute, you guys have heard the SEO is dead statement. I've heard it since 2010. SEO is dead. SEO is dead. SEO many, many times. No, it's not. It's not dead. It never has been. But that claim has been made dozens and hundreds of times, probably, in the 15 years that I've been doing SEO. And so it's like, I just stopped commenting and replying to any of those types of claims whatsoever. Now, if there's a claim made and then all of a sudden there's like major seismic shifts in how things are performing on the web and all that kind of stuff, then I'll pay attention to it. But things like that, like the dead internet theory and all that kind of stuff, like, no, I'm not contributing to that. Even when a new algorithm update rolls out and there's all this chatter and buzz on the web about this and that, and all this speculation, people ask my opinion on that. I go back and watch Hump Day Hangout recordings, guys. You'll see on Hump Day Hangouts over the last 10 years, we've had many, many times people ask questions about an algorithm update. And I say, I don't know. I don't pay attention to that shit until it affects clients of mine personally. And then I will go in and review the data and everything else. But I think there's a lot of, hair on fire type reactions to these types of algorithm updates, when a lot of the times you just let the dust settle, and then once then you can kind of determine what happened and how to optimize for the changes. And so I try not to contribute and participate in all that speculation and all that bullshit It's just something you learn over the years to ignore because it's just noise. And all that's going to do is distract you from making progress. So hopefully that's clear. David says the thing with AI is we don't have metrics for it, but there's a bunch of other ways to market. Yes, that is true. John says when you purchase semantic links, say you get the $2.99 package, do you get new links every month or is it just the initial ones? No, John, it's all new links. None of our links are rented. There's only one link type that we have that has a renewal fee, and there's an annual renewal fee, and it's only $25. And that's because those are for specific custom domains that we searched out for that particular client and that client only. And there is a cost to renew the domain and also to host the site that we build specifically for that one client. So we charge $25 per year per domain for any of those particular link types, but that's only one specific link type. All other links that we place are permanent. Every link every month you get a new batch of links and they're permanent. You cancel a subscription, they all stay. We don't remove them, we don't take them down because that requires work. Who's going to pay for that work? I'm not. When the money stops from the client, we stop performing work, period, which means we're not going to go back and take the links down, none of that shit. See what I'm saying? So they're all new links every month. Been struggling to find good backlinks without creating my own PBNs. Yeah, that can happen, John. It's tough. I understand. I used to outsource all my link building too. So I only built semantic links because I needed it for my own agency. And it wasn't called semantic links. I just built my own link building service for my own agency. And then when I saw how effective it was, that's when I said, okay, I'm on to something here. I want to make this available to mastermind members, which we did first. And then eventually I took it outside of the mastermind, made it public. Hopefully that's clear. But yeah, John, reach out to me, man. Schedule a meeting with me. Just go to semanticlinks.io. Schedule a meeting with me. I'm happy to show you what we do. I'll go through a whole presentation. I don't do hard sales closing tactics or none of that shit. Get on a call. I'll show you what we do. Very detailed process. I'm 100% transparent about it. If it makes sense for us to work together, great. If not, hey, no harm, no foul. I bet you'll still learn something on that call. So just go ahead and schedule a call with me, man. I'm happy to have a chat with you. Hey, block an hour off. So that's how long it takes to get through it. Okay, we got to wrap it up. David says, really, the reason I don't give up on drive stacking is it's the crafty way to train Gemini. Hey, that's a great point, David. It's a great point. Platform marketing, that's a great phrasing. Yep. Okay, guys, I think we're done. Thanks, guys, for the participation. David and John, I appreciate you guys. Costco, I always enjoy having somebody to chat with at the end of the meeting. So thanks, guys. Thanks, Adam, for sticking around.